This video is going to be a film study look at Lamar Jackson's performance in the Ravens' 27-20 loss to the Chiefs in Week 1. I thought he played with a lot of force. I thought there's certainly some missed throws. It's actually when I break those down a little bit later in the video, or a lot later, because this is going to be quite lengthy film study. They will not be the throws that you probably think I'm going to refer to. There's been much attention and consternation on a couple of throws that I don't really put too much credence into. I love the amount. I hate to use the word effort, but I love the effort and the intensity and the just consistency of attack mode that he was in, whether it was scrambles. A couple of his throws, I would like to see them put in a little bit more catchable place. And what I mean by that is not illustrating or demonstrating that he's trying to avoid risk or minimize risk. Give a guy a chance to make the catch such that, yes, we open ourselves up to an interception possibly. I felt like there was a couple of throws where he was trying to be really perfect, but were it not for his ability to move around, to scramble, make yards, his biggest gain of the night from a scramble standpoint, 29-yard gain, was called back for a BS penalty on Tyler Linderbaum, if you ask me. A very unusual night from a refereeing standpoint. We'll get into the film. You guys have to let me know if you enjoy this type of long-form content. My anticipation is that this is going to be, probably 40, 45 minutes in length, straight through recording one time. My intention was to do this as a live stream. I would like to do that again on Saturday mornings, but I'm not sure that my current location allows me to do so. Basically, my children are in the house and they'll make a ton of noise. So if this is the type of content you guys enjoy, please let me know. At this point, I'm really not sure what Ravens fans are looking for in terms of content to participate with and evaluate. So this is an illustration of something that the Ravens did, I think, 4 times in the game. Definitely 3, where the running back is lined up to one side, crosses the quarterback's face, and kind of goes through the B gap into the boundary on the other side. Definitely very intentional from a conceptual standpoint, from a scheme standpoint by Todd Monken. Lamar is able to navigate the heavy blitz pressure that the Chiefs bring. I say heavy, it's 5-man rush with one D tackle dropping out of here. And I think the design of this has Bateman coming across the middle low from right to left and then basically vacating that space such that Justice Hill runs onto it. Lamar is able to avoid Karlaftis, get it out there, 18-yard gain on a 3rd and 11. This is first possession. I think the Chiefs, as the game went on, kind of erred on the side of being more conservative from a rush standpoint. I also wonder about some of our pass rush stuff on these concepts. So what I mean is Mark Andrews was oftentimes eliciting one defender assigned to him and then a second defender on an inside or outside leverage occasionally. And I wonder about the design of him having responsibility in pass pro and then the running back crossing face. I think this is a designed play to get Justice Hill open, and I think Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews is the one I'm referring to now. He might be part of the design element to create that space and basically hold a defender, even though on that particular play the Chiefs happened to be in a zone blitz and there was no one assigned to him man-to-man. Still first possession. 3rd and 9, you got the offsetting penalties. It's a DPI. This one is, I think, eternally frustrating. This game will be frustrating to watch for many people, so I understand if, perhaps you're not a big fan of it or many people didn't click anyway, but what they did to Ronnie Stanley and Patrick McCarry versus what they did to Jawan Taylor is different. There is a differential in the enforcement. It doesn't have to be 4-4 if you're going to call it, but for the NFL to be this billion-dollar organization, the referees to be so well prepared and not think about the optics, I think is quite concerning. That they really don't care what the optics are. But in any case, this is an example of, obviously there's a defender in Lamar's face. He's still willing to throw the football and possibly take a shot. Him putting it in a location for the receiver to go on ahead and go get and not allowing himself to overthrow it, not trying to be too perfect. I do wonder about this. If this is a 1st and 10, I wonder if he puts this ball here. Because it seems to me, and I've said this for a couple of years, that he's oftentimes risk-averse, meaning he's trying to put the football in a location that only his receiver can catch it. I'm talking about on deeper throws, and to the extent that at times it makes it either totally uncatchable or a 30-70 situation, meaning it's a 30% chance that our guy's going to catch it, 70% chance that it's going to be overthrown and incomplete. Beautiful play here later on in the drive after those offsetting penalties. 3rd and 1, dual read. I talked about this a little bit in the first video I put out on Friday that was about the first drive, first possession. I'm not sure if you guys checked it out. I'll link it up here in a moment. Lamar and Likely are dual reading this defensive end. Collinsworth couldn't identify that in live time. And Lamar and Likely are both reading this as a keep read to Henry. Again, it's a 3rd and 1, so you've got a lot of guys committing, and the Chiefs were clearly focused on going downhill when Derrick Henry was in the backfield, so that's a good thing. We can use that against them, and in some cases we did. Lamar and Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews were the beneficiary occasionally. Same play here, end zone angle. You can it's a little blurry, but as the play, I should probably figure out a better player so I can slow the play down while I'm recording live. Likely is looking directly at the edge defender. This is not a pre-planned quote loop or some sift or whatever people want to call it out into the flats. He's reading this. It's a dual read. That's the free safety, Reed, who was quite active and a little bit more impressive than I anticipated, who is out into the flats that Like is able to get a block on. Down sweep, still in the first drive, pulling the left guard and the center, Linderbaum. Lamar ends up actually attached to Linderbaum's hip. Chiefs are kind of fortunate this doesn't go all the way to the house. If we get a better block out there, Voorhees, if we're able to maintain it a little longer, Voorhees on Drew Tranquil, who's another underrated guy, if you ask me. I'm talking about 23 for the Chiefs. If we're able to get a little bit more of a lane here, we could have Lamar and Linderbaum downhill on that safety. Again, it's Reed who is involved and gets credit for the tackle. I thought he played an exceptional game. Second possession, of course, we capped that one with the touchdown to Derrick Henry. I'm not making large-scale statements. I'm trying to just evaluate each of the plays. I think that's the best way to do it. I'm sure that other people have broken down Lamar's game and graded it / evaluated it, whatever. There are oftentimes factors related to the play that I think are omitted from national and social media discussion. So I'll kind of leave it at that, and you can kind of fill in the blanks if you want. 22 personnel, I formation. Chiefs got 9 in the box with a middle of the field free safety who'd be able to support. And you can see anything related to Ricard / Henry and a play fake was getting a lot of commitment by these guys at the second level. They are really unsure of what to do when it's play action. To me, this has got to be a larger facet of our offense, maybe even early in the game, guys, and that's probably a little backwards for what some people would say. This is a 1st and 10, second possession. I'm saying under center play action. Doesn't have to be 22 personnel. It could be 21 or 20. And get the play action going when Henry's in the game, such that the defense is backed off a little bit and worried about the play action, and then we can run on them. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. Still, second possession. I think Lamar is 0.2 seconds late here getting this to Justice Hill. It's a 3rd down, and it's a great play by Reed again. I feel like I'm going to mention him many times. This is not snag flat because Bateman is looking to pick someone. We are anticipating that Drew Tranquil is man on Justice Hill. So Bateman, if you see his release, looks kind of funky because he's looking for the inside linebacker to show up. No inside linebacker shows up. Then he releases back inside. Lamar's got the ball out there. Look, if we're able to make this guy miss, we've got the opportunity for a big play. Great play by Reed. Great read and reaction to the boundary. Maybe 0.2 seconds faster. Maybe a little bit more zip on the ball. That's being picky from a Lamar standpoint. I'm talking about a little bit of extra effort, oomph to get the ball out there. That was a stop, obviously. Third possession, this is the forced fumble by Chris Jones, who was, who was dominant at times. He was in the neutral zone, I thought, at least 3 times that either weren't called or were debatable or very close, including the one time when he's walking down the line of scrimmage as the ball was snapped. This is a really poor effort by Roger Rosengarten. We ended up being out on our toes and beat by these outside swats so easily at the right side with Falele and Rosengarten by Chris Jones. It was surprising. And then a switch was flipped at some point, late third quarter, fourth quarter. He was gassed. I don't know if it's a depth thing for the Chiefs. Maybe they had some guys out on the defensive line. Maybe he just played a lot of snaps. We ran 72 offensive plays, and I felt like I said this on Ken's show Friday night, I felt like if this is a 5-quarter game, we probably win this game by 10 points because they were absolutely gassed on defense. There was no answers for them to Lamar and the combination of the talents that we had. We certainly left plays on the field in the fourth quarter, particularly late. So counter option play, I really like this concept. Anything with Henry going in one direction and Lamar potentially going in the other. I suspect, and this is just a working theory that I've already developed, I suspect is going to be huge for this team in 2024. Whether it's under center, play action bootleg, whether it's zone read, whether it's counter option here out of the pistol, in my opinion, anything with those guys going in opposite directions is going to put a lot of conflict on the defense, and I think we're going to get higher percent returns out of those concepts than we do on things where Lamar and Derrick Henry might be moving to the same side together post snap. 7-yard scramble here on the fourth possession. Rosengarten is in at right tackle. We've got another example of just a little outside hand swipe. I think it's Jones who is able to force Lamar. That might not be Jones. My apologies for that. Lamar, I thought this is late. Early second quarter. Excuse me. I thought Lamar forced the Chiefs to exert so much effort that eventually they wore down. And that speaks to the 72 plays run. That speaks to Chris Jones having reduced effectiveness. In terms of this 4th and 3 play, that's why I couldn't remember why did I show that 7-yard scramble. It's because it sets up this 4th and 3. I'm not sure that we have to use Zay Flowers for this. I feel like we could use Isaiah Likely. It seems fashionable, of course, to bring him up with everything because of how great he played, 2 touchdowns, almost 3. But for my money, we don't have to use our ultra-quick, super athletic Zay Flowers. In my opinion, I'd almost like to see him lined up. I'm being really picky here, and I'm not a big fan of this concept. We're trying to make it look like we're going to run quarterback power here. So we're trying to make it look like we're going to do on 4th and 3. I'd like to see Zay Flowers here and Isaiah Likely here. Still retain Derrick Henry in the game. He's lined up at tight end on the backside, by the way, which is interesting. If we're going to go jumbo, let's go jumbo and just put Zay as the receiver. For my money, we're going to force them to defend him. Maybe even have the option for him to run a vertical route. This little snag look, essentially snag flat, where he's sitting here, I don't think we're getting anything out of that because these guys are all looking at Lamar. As soon as Lamar turns and looks in this direction, I'm talking about even before he threw the football, there's going to be flow in this direction by second level and third level defenders. And so I don't know that snag route's going to be an option. I'd like to see Zay out there just run a damn vertical. Same play, end zone angle. Of course, you can't see Zay from this angle, so that's cool. That looks great. Well, Trent McDuffie responded well. So, did they have awareness? Did they communicate where he was? I don't know. I know he reacted well to the situation. He passed off Nelson Aguilar's route to the inside. And we gave up possession. We have to try to score points. I get it. Some of our first and second down calls might need to be a little bit more aggressive at times. Scramble up the middle for 13 yards. I felt like there was a time period where Lamar started to get, I don't want to say pissed off or angry, but he was like, I'm going to hit a gear here and I'm going to make you guys defend this. I don't think Lamar or anyone wants to do this 15 times a game, or maybe it was 8 times a game, whatever. It's a play action with Henry. You get a little bit of movement from the second level. It's a 1st and 10. It's the 5th possession after the stop on the 4th down. And I just have always loved play action with Lamar. When I see this angle here in his hip, leg, down to his foot, talking about his right foot, right leg, then I feel like we're getting him in position to throw the ball downfield more, and I'm a big fan of that. And he puts his foot in the ground and says, okay, well, I don't think there's anyone necessarily open here, and I'm going to take off. I think that's an extra element that we should force teams to defend. I get it. We don't want Lamar running 20, 22 times in a game. But what he adds in that flavor is totally unique, if you ask me. 3rd down, incomplete to Bateman on a 3rd and 8. I think we're running Bateman on this little in cut. And then Andrews, kind of like a smash concept. I think Andrews starts to work it towards the sideline, but I could be wrong. The Chiefs are playing like a cover 2 to that side. This corner is kind of stopping for a moment. Up here, they're doing it a little bit different. The safety is still at depth, just like this guy, so those are mirrored, but they're getting more of a man release up here on the backside. Lamar doesn't have time because, again, we have pressure from 2 guys. I think he got 2 losses there from an O-line standpoint, and Lamar has to try to navigate that. Can't get the throw off to Bateman, who would have had to make a defender miss. Again, it was a 3rd and 8, so we're talking about an underneath route. The Chiefs played a little bit more of that cover two stuff than I thought. A couple of different versions. Sometimes one side of the field looked different than the other. Watching the game on the broadcast view, you're not exactly sure, but they did it often. Here they're dropping Karlaftis out. This is a 2nd and 4. Karlaftis is dropping out of here. They're bringing a +1 blitz on the other side with Drew Tranquil. I think he runs over Justice Hill here. Outside release by Zay Flowers. He ends up getting pushed out of bounds and likely just sits it down. Lamar, nice little sidearm throw. I think it ends up being a 9 or a 10-yard gain on a 2nd and 4. I think we're late second quarter there, but I could be wrong. Switching it up now, third quarter, 8th possession. Another example of the running back crossing face, number 1. Number 2, the second element that I mentioned earlier was the receiver to the boundary, in this case Bateman, clearing that out, getting out of there. And we still have the third element, which is Mark Andrews responsible for a defensive end. I think they're doing this because they want someone to occupy Andrews in man. In this case, once again, the Chiefs do not do so. They've got Bolton in the middle of the field, inside linebacker 32, very talented guy. Could have nearly been Super Bowl MVP a couple of years ago against the Eagles. I'm a big fan of inside linebackers, you guys know, so anything that happens like that, I'm going to mention it often because I root for those guys. But all three elements, Bateman, drag route, Andrews to the boundary, blocking the defensive end. So we've got slide pro here, if you want to call it that. It's not necessarily the same thing because it's being executed with a tight end and not a running back, so there's some differential. And then the running back crossing Lamar's face. He lined up to the field, going into the boundary. So there was something that we saw that we recognized we were going to be able to get this off. And again, this is a 3rd and 12. If you remember, the other one I showed you was a 3rd and 8. Here's a 3rd and 12. I think this is all designed. I think most of this other stuff here is just for show, to give these guys something to do. We pretty much knew where we were going with the football. Nice design, if you ask me, by Todd Monken. Lamar selling it by looking in the middle of the field, even though he knew where he was going with the football. Still 8th possession. Fake toss, and I'm glad this is still here in the offense. This used to be a large percent of what we did. What I'm talking about is the over concepts from Mark Andrews lined up to the right, approximately 3 to 3.5 yards outside the right tackle, and then running an over concept. Sometimes it would be a climb concept, something like this. Sometimes he would climb it vertically. Occasionally, he'll go ahead and sit this down in the middle of the field. So he's got options at times, maybe not necessarily on this one, but with Ricard on the field, Henry and Ricard on the same side as the tight end, Andrews. This fake pitch essentially is play action. Very similar conceptually to what Greg Roman ran with Mark Andrews a lot. A little bit of a wiggle here to kind of push the safety off some or create a little bit of space, and that helps out. Mark Andrews is wide open, 11 yards. Lamar hits him in stride. Another example, if you ask me, of pretty much we knew where we were going with the football. That's Mark Andrews 101 right there. Still 8th possession. This is the incomplete pass to Likely, overthrown. One that I feel like I'd like to see us put in a more catchable location. It's not off by much. I think you've got 3 throws this game, one of which that we're looking at here and 2 later on. Likely knows he's open. You got different options. You can throw it vertical, which is kind of what we go for. He could kind of force Likely to bend this over here and soften the throw some. I'm not saying that that's what he has to do, but that's an option. Soften the throw, meaning get him off of his path, but soften the throw, deaden it, if you will, so Likely can run underneath of it. That would require us to know that this corner to the backside isn't in some type of deep third relationship. I don't know that Lamar looked over there, to be honest with you. So just going through the different options. And here I think that Lamar's trying to throw the ball out in time with Likely perfectly. I wish we were going for about 93% perfection there, so that the range of possibilities wasn't. Let's say that the range of possibilities of this throw. I may not be able to draw this well, so forgive me for that. Let's say that's the range of what Lamar was trying to do. I think if that's what Lamar's trying to do, that's where the football's going to end up, in that range. I wish that he was kind of aiming for this. Still retain the possibility that the defender can intercept it, but understanding that we've got basically a one-on-one in that space and we've got a super talented guy we're throwing to, I'd like to see us be a little bit less perfectionist, a little bit less risk averse. I understand maybe you don't agree with that. You want to see him just throw it in time and in step with likely. I'm okay. This is end zone angle, same play. My perception here is that on some of these early downs, this is 2nd and 11, so it doesn't necessarily fit with what I'm talking about, is that Lamar is trying to put the ball in the perfect spot, keep it away from a safety. In this case, it actually end up, floating to him. I think likely should be frustrated. We are. Opportunity for a big play that we missed. 3rd and 11. I think you've got a great play by Watson. Lamar again moved off his spot, so he's throwing on the run. Were I to ask for perfection, yeah, I'd like this ball to be thrown up the sideline a little bit more to the outside, but Watson is a physical big corner. It's not like Lamar sees Zay a whole lot. He knows he's open, but there's a larger body in between the two of them. He's also fading to his right, throwing it. I think it's an impressive throw. I think they're talking about we'd like for this throw to be a little bit, maybe let's call it, I'm not going to be able to draw this accurately. I wish I could zoom in. Let's call this halfway from Zay to the sideline and then another yard to yard and a half up here. So maybe this ball is off by a yard. I don't know what your perception of it is or what other people have said when they've broken it down. I think it's a nice job by Lamar of escaping, the pocket. I'm not sure that there weren't times during the game where he was ready to escape because the pass rush had been so consistent. That's why early in the game the pass rush has got to be better, and early in the game some of Todd Monken's calls, I think, have to be designed to create less stress, anxiety, pressure for Lamar so that there isn't this cumulative effect of the pass rush getting to him and he doesn't get out of there a little bit too soon at times. Not that necessarily is what occurred there. Bateman for 15, play action under center. Basically what I'm describing. I'd like to see early on in the game. Ricard and Andrews on the field, almost a little bit of a mirrored image. It's a little bit clunky from a Andrews and Henry situation. Their routes kind of bring them into the same location. I really do love this. Makari is stepping out to the defensive end. I think it's Dana he's versatile. He plays everywhere for them. And basically he's making it look like he's actually run blocking him. So Dana's reacting to that and opening that gap. Well, that lane is exactly where Lamar throws the football, which is interesting to me that it seems like it's the design. And I think it's Dana who's actually, for a moment, briefly asking for a hold. Nice route by Bateman and Zay Flowers. They're both on the same route path. Basically, it's a mirrored route combination. End zone angle. Show you Lamar's steps. Play action to Henry does get 23 to step up. Part of that depends on coverage. So if it's man, he's going to step up. And in this case, it kind of looks like it is, although the reaction with the outside leverage corner to Bateman makes me wonder what was going on there coverage-wise for them. Still 9th possession. Lamar on a scramble. 12 personnel, which we used a lot. The Chiefs are out of their call that they've used earlier. Hey, is Jones in the neutral zone? I don't know, but this is a very rare thing. From this angle, it looks like he is not. I thought there was another situation where he did something like that, and it was closer. Lamar ends up scrambling out of here. I think 16 or 17 yards. Remember the plays that we showed you earlier where Hill is crossing face of Lamar. He's generally going out to the boundary. In this situation here, he's already into the boundary. So you still have a tell there for what we're doing as far as the running back. He's going to the boundary. It's whether he lines up there or lines up to the field on some of these third downs. This is 3rd and 3. Looks like the defensive end, Dana, peeled out to collision him, so they had a slightly different call there. No one necessarily is open here, if you ask me. I mean, maybe if we got to likely and we wanted to get this ball down here to the field, we got an opportunity. But this is an illustration of how Lamar is very unique and different from so many other quarterbacks, but even players. And when I say that, I mean position players. We are literally one tackle from taking this to the house. I think it's Cook. We are super close to taking this to the house, if you ask me. It ends up being a 16-yard gain. I think it's his second longest scramble of the day. Of course, the longest one doesn't count. It's this one here. Still 9th possession. 1st and 10. 12 personnel, bunch A. I thought this was pin pull pitch when we were lining up. It's a one-man screen, And I think it's Jones winning up the middle. BS hold, in my opinion, unless the other angle, refutes what I'm saying. I did not think that, we had a hold, but I thought this was pin pull pitch to Henry. The pitch, and then guys pinning down, likely looping out, and the tackle looping out to go lead out into space. Forgive me for all those red lines. But it's a one-man screen. I want to see us throw it. I think we ran it twice in this game, likely out into the flats. Henry is the potential receiver here. All these other guys are running routes. They're actually running routes, but that down there is a one-man screen that's added on to the play. Jones is walking. I think that's Voorhees back, and maybe Macari's not so bad up there, to be honest with you, but the combination of what happens with Jones basically walking Voorhees back forces Lamar to step up to that side. So I think there's some times where one guy's pass rush kind of gets influenced, the quality of it gets influenced by what happened on the other side. And Lamar is able to skate out of there. From this angle, it's like, where did he find space to do that? 29 yards, I think late third quarter at this point. First play of the is called back, obviously, for the hold on Linderbaum. Maybe you disagree. This is the touchdown to Likely, a beautiful play by Lamar, putting it in an absolutely catchable position on 2nd and 17. I do think there is something to be said about Likely and Andrews on opposite sides of the field. I will show the route by Andrews and the reaction by the safety. I mean, what can you say about Isaiah Likely? Just smooth. The reaction of the safety, it's Reed. He's in a little pedal, and then Andrews' route is going to bring him under, and so Reed is going to drive on that. And so conceptually, you end up with all this space opened up here for Likely to run onto. Ball's actually caught, more towards the bottom of the numbers, I think. So I'm interested in some of these route combinations where Likely and Andrews are on different sides of the field, and basically we use Andrews as bait. I would not call this a bracket coverage. This is just a typical response by a too-high safety with an inside linebacker underneath. I don't really get into too much of those bracket double-team stuff. Lamar clearly puts this in a position or location for Likely to make the play. Beautiful stuff. I think 49-yard touchdown for Likely. 10th possession, run concept, QB counter Reed. I know we're working on 30 minutes long here, so my apologies if this is too long. I'm not sure what to do in terms of telling the whole story for Lamar in the game. I almost thought about doing 10 plays. That could have probably been a little bit more efficient, but you guys let me know if this is what you're looking for. If you listen to this long, it probably is. So QB counter, I don't think this is a read. I mistakenly a moment ago called it a read. Henry is crossing face, and we got the two pulling linemen. We'll give the end zone angle in a moment. You can look at Lamar's helmet. I don't think he's reading George Karlaftis at all. Ends up being a 9-yard gain. Into the boundary. Andrews has always been great at this, either pinning down on the defensive end or slipping outside to go get someone and allowing the defensive end to be focused on him for a moment. In this case, he steps to him. Dana, 51, steps down. We get a log block by Falele because Dana wrong-armed it. So Lamar takes it outside behind Rosengarten. Big hit from the other side of the field by Connor. The Chiefs have a whole bunch of good DBs out there. Trent McDuffie, I think, exceeds that good definition. Overthrow to Rashad Bateman. I think this is uncatchable. I don't have a complaint about Bateman, quote, not making an effort for the ball. In my opinion, with a clean pocket, this is a throw that has to be put in a catchable location. Lamar is leaning back a little bit on it, and I think that changes the trajectory. I'll talk about that again here in a moment. We got a nice look at his body here in terms of comparing it to the 40-yard line. His arm, but nothing else, really ends up passing the 40-yard line there, and that's what I mean when I say leaning back. He's got the constant worry about pressure in his face and such, so that could influence the throw. But the reality is that the throw was uncatchable, and I think part of it is because he wasn't moving into the throw in a normal progression. End zone angle, same play. You kind of get a view of what I'm talking about, but you also get a view of our guys losing their leverage up front. And two players for the Chiefs winning to their right, to our left, And so that happens to be where Lamar is. And in this case, I think influences him maybe to not step into it some. What percent was that influence? I don't know, versus what percent was him just not stepping into the throw at all, but nonetheless goes down as an incomplete, where I think, Bateman has a clear opportunity to win. I like that matchup, Bateman against Watson, in our favor. 11th possession, basically the end of the game where Lamar and Likely were, I think they completed 2 or 3 of these, and Lamar had multiple scrambles. It was a thrilling moment, man. I thought that he competed, and he's very driven. Maybe it needs to be driven to the second power or driven squared. He is super motivated to beat this team, and I think to take us to a level higher than where we even were last year. The completion to Bateman on the run against, again, another, what I would say, cover 2 look down here to the bottom. You can see Watson ends up outside leverage here. The safety is going to kind of sit, and so this is a throw into the hole shot. Off of his right side, moving to his right. Lamar makes the throw. It's a 1st and 10, 45, 46 seconds left, something like that. Great grab by Bateman. Maybe the throw is 6 inches high, but it's an amazing play, man. An amazing throw by Lamar to be able to move out there, get it out to Bateman, 38 yards. I don't know about you, but this was the moment where I was like, we're going to win this game because we're going to score a touchdown, and we're going to go for it. I think that was pretty obvious that Harbaugh was going to do that. These moments, while it didn't end well, it's certainly bittersweet. It was fun to watch him. I think, to me, he looks like a guy who is really driven and motivated to be amazing personally and to lift and drive everyone else to amazing heights as well. This is Reed stepping back for a moment and then trying to go A-gap, and I think it's Voorhees who just crunches him. Kind of a dangerous-looking play from the standpoint of Voorhees hits him, and then he redirects into Linderbaum, who also falls down because Falele pushed another D-tackle into him. So you had 5 bodies in that little space. Just the unpredictable and dynamic nature of football while Lamar is making a brilliant play for 38 yards. Overthrow to Likely, I think it's quite obvious that this is the one I was referring to earlier. I don't have a problem with the missed throw to Bateman/Flowers at all. This is another one where I think he's leaning back a little bit because he's trying to, I think here, he's trying to create the needed trajectory. So it's a unsettled situation where the Chiefs have pretty much given up on the pass rush because they've been gashed by Lamar's athleticism and scrambles. One guy gets thrown out of the club up to the top. And here you've got Flowers moving in from left to right, and Likely's going to bring his route to the back pylon. Clearly he is open at this point, and Lamar, I think, is trying to create the needed trajectory. I don't think he wanted to be, it's going to be impossible for me to do this. I don't think he wanted to create this flat angle throw that maybe allows this guy to make a play on it. I think he's going for, this is where I definitely need 2 different colors. I think he was going for a little more of a drop-in throw, and forgive me if those lines don't do a good job of what I'm trying to describe. And that ball to me is probably a yard high, maybe 3 feet, maybe even as much as 4 feet. But it's because of the trajectory, in my opinion, that Lamar's trying to create there. So I understand why he was doing that, because he's trying to keep it away from the defender with 18 seconds left in the game. This is the incompletion that's credited to Zay Flowers. I do actually believe him that he's throwing the ball to Bateman. You have pressure again here, and somehow Lamar is able to take the football in his right arm and get it away from Chris Jones. So he's navigating Chris Jones being around with his wingspan, Chris Jones' wingspan, while moving to the right and trying to find a receiver. But we, maybe not Ravens fans, so excuse me, but multiple football fans call themselves football fans. They're not. They're partisan hacks. Say he's not accurate. And if you think I'm talking to you and you happen to be a fan of a different team, I am, because this is clearly not a throw that Lamar can't make if he's trying to throw it here. Initially, to Zay Flowers. Initially, I thought he thought Zay was going to sit down, and Zay continued in this direction. And then post-game press conference, Lamar said, I think he interrupted, which Lamar rarely does because he's so kind to reporters, I think. He said, no, the throw was to Bate. I think he thought Bateman was going to move back here, and at this point, Lamar understood that we didn't have any timeouts left. Correct me if I'm wrong there. So there's another element of awareness for Lamar. Hey, I've got to make a throw. I can't take a sack. And so he's throwing it through an open lane, and I'll give you the end zone angle in a moment. And I do have a comment about people, fans of other teams, who don't believe him when he says he was throwing it to Bateman. Yet so many of those fans will believe anything that the NFL puts out there. The NFL could probably serve dog shit on a plate and call it lasagna. And many NFL fans would say, that looks like great lasagna, let me try some. But when a player who's in the middle of the 60th minute of competition against the highest level team that there is, the Kansas City Chiefs, on the road in week 1, they won't believe him when he says, I was throwing the ball to Bateman. You're welcome to let me know what you think of that thought. If you don't believe him that he was throwing to Bateman, if he was trying to throw it to Zay Flowers, I think he was trying to throw it exactly where the ball was because he thought Flowers was going to sit down. But I believe him that he was trying to get the ball to Bateman. He thought Bateman was going to move into open space. And here's why, because on the very next throw, a similar location on the field, a little bit different, situation, he puts it exactly where it needs to be. Under more pressure, with 5 seconds left in the game, on a 3rd and goal. It's not our final play of the game. Theoretically, if the time existed, there would be time for one more play. He makes a perfect throw. So we either believe that he made a perfect throw on this 3rd down, touchdown that was called back, and a really horrible throw to Zay Flowers on the previous play, or I guess if you are of the opinion that Lamar is totally inaccurate all the time, then you think this was luck. I was hoping that his toe was in bounds. I know you were too. I was hoping that one of the replays would be a low enough angle such that we would see his foot elevated. Hey, look, I do have something to say about this here in a moment, so I'll get to that. I was hoping that there would be an angle that was low enough that would show like the toe of his shoe elevated above the ground such that they could say everything else came down inbounds. There is an interest. First of all, I believe it's incomplete. They got the call right. It's a great play by Likely and even greater play by Lamar. There is an interesting element here to me. How much of the foot needs to be on the ground before you're considered down? Meaning, what if his foot rolled and thereafter here, what if his foot rolled? He had initially come down inbounds, just like this, so 1 inch away from the line, and his foot rolled and it ended up being out of bounds once it rolled. I basically mean an ankle sprain, an ankle roll. What would that look like? Would that be an incomplete pass? I know it's an interesting, or it's a far-fetched scenario. It's a question I have. Now, in terms of the slide pro, we're all moving this way. I am very disappointed in the call for that, not because of Justice Hill. I'm disappointed in the call for that because this is the look the Chargers. This is the look that the Chiefs have been showing for much of this drive. Why? It's a 3+1. The spy is Leo Chenal. Occasionally, it's not a true spy. He's actually rushing. So we knew they were only bringing 3, unless our coaches thought, hey, we believe they're going to bring pressure and try to get the ball out of Lamar's hands so he can't scramble, so he can't make anything happen. So it disappoints me that this is how it worked out. I thought Justice Hill gave as much as he could to Chris Jones. Were it not here, were it earlier in the game, I'd like to see us cut him some. I'd like to see us cut him because to me, based on a little bit of the behavior I saw in the game, I wonder how he would react to it. I don't think it would be positive. So I thought it was a beautiful play by Lamar, a great catch by Likely, great competition that the Chiefs and the Ravens offered. Man, we were so, outside of the referee stuff and whatever else you want to call it, we were so blessed to be able to have that game as the opening game, which is why my reaction video was titled The House Always Wins. Because in this case, the NFL gets to talk about that play and Likely and Lamar's inability to beat Mahomes, the Chiefs' hex or whatever you want to call it over the Ravens. That's what the national narrative gets to be. And instead of focusing on what I think we should be focusing on at times, which was inconsistent referee application, I'm fine with the rule. I actually am glad they're calling that on the tackles. But as it relates to Lamar, I thought he played with incredible effort. And I know people say, well, you can't glean effort. You can't determine or decipher effort. Yes, you can. You certainly can. And Lamar showed it out there. That's a BS statement that people use to make excuses for players and people out in society that you can't glean effort. You absolutely can. And watch the game and see Lamar's. He played with a ton of force, if you want to describe it that way. He played downhill. I'm comfortable with that as well. He was incredibly driven and motivated to win this game, and we fell short. Well, 1 inch long, I guess. And from the standpoint of the final play, I absolutely know that we were going for two. I don't know what Harbaugh said in the press conference about it. Did anyone even ask him? So, in any case, man, if you guys watch this long, thank you. I probably owe you a tip or money or something to put up with it, but I've been waiting all off season to see some Lamar Jackson film, and what we got was pretty damn good. Absent, I think, 3 throws that were, that I covered here that you probably don't like me saying are overthrown, and that's fine. But it was a lot of fun to watch the game, not the way it ended, and it was a heck of a lot of fun for me to get up in the middle of the night and try to produce this for you guys. If you'd like to see me live stream something like this next time, let me know. I'll probably have to go buy some new tech equipment that's a little bit more reliable in terms of the stream, but I would really like to do that as long as we could retain the ability for you, the listener and watcher, to respond in a quick enough fashion such that I'm not on to the next play and you're responding to the previous one via text. And if you don't know, that has been my experience with the YouTube chat on live streams, is that comments back seem to be delayed, and I don't know why that is. I'm just not smart enough to figure it out. So I appreciate you guys' time, man. If you enjoyed the video and you enjoyed listening to me ramble, then congratulations. But second of all, please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media so other Ravens fans can enjoy it as well.